hear you clap. I'm not sure you're as excited as I am. All right. All right. We'll start out tonight by really trying to get deeper into what may be some questions in your mind and in my mind about how to really press against the wall until the walls start to come down. And like Dr. Chan said in the first segment, how do you stop that rigmarole and step in fully into what God has in mind for you? So I'm talking about how do you deal with that fear of putting your foot in the water, knowing that water will not necessarily part or become ice, so you can walk on it, but you have to deal with your fears. How have you done that in the last many years, moving from place to place and breaking new grounds?
I think fear is an essential element of life. For example, if you didn't have fear, you would never need courage. If there was no darkness, you'd never need light. So you need courage only in the presence of fear. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear keeps us safe. Fear tells us there are cars coming and they will not stop for you. So don't run in front of it. Fear allows you to make choices in life that sometimes are wise. But when it comes to leadership, when it comes to possessing your promises, when it comes to doing what you need to do, the first thing you do have to do is to acknowledge, I'm afraid. Listen, there's nothing ungodly, unrighteous, unspiritual about recognizing I'm afraid. I fly a lot. I'm on about 200 flights a year. That's a lot of flying. I have some flying stories that I can tell you, that I have been up there when it felt like this is the end of it. I've been up there when there was such bad turbulence and storms up there. Stuff was flying everywhere. Oxygen was falling down. People were scared. I was repenting of sins I had committed. I was even repenting of sins I was planning on doing. Fear is a good thing. But when it comes to obeying God, you have to acknowledge your fear and do what Peter said when he did not catch anything all night. He said, nevertheless, at your word. So the way you overcome fear is not deny the fear. You did not overcome darkness by denying the darkness. You overcame darkness by turning on the light. So fear is an important ingredient of life. So the psalmist says this to us. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will. Why? Because, see, he overcame fear with the presence of the Lord. I've had to overcome fear again and again in my life. I have been fearful on many levels. I'm fearful at many levels as to what if this does not work out? What if that does not work out? Fear. But God has not given us a spirit of fear. And once you recognize that, then you can trust the Lord. So bottom line is, when there's fear, acknowledge the fear. Don't try to deny, I have no fear. I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. No, you are scared. And in the midst of that, I say, but I will choose to trust the Lord. And when you choose to trust the Lord is when you come to a dark room and turn on the light. And darkness leaves. You never have to rebuke the darkness. You don't have to come up against the darkness, you just turn on the light. And that is what it means by acknowledging your fear, by walking in faith.
Let's appreciate Dr. Chan for that. All right. While you were speaking in the first segment, that word came very strong, which I believe is very prophetic for all of us. The fact that even in the midst of the flood, in the midst of, everything happening at Jordan, it was also a time for harvest. How do we put us side by side with all the things happening around us now? I mean, our nation is like practically in recession economically, and there are many uncertainties here and there. But we have to keep taking steps. That's why we're here. Can you speak to that a bit?
I think we have choices in life. One choice is to just curl up and die. It's a choice. We are all a product of choices. Some people invest, some people don't invest. Some people go on for higher education, some don't go for higher education. We've all made choices in life. I'm here a product of choices I've made in life. A choice to do what I need to do because I know that's the right thing to do. Now, the question is, so how do we see the flood and still step into it? How do we still step into that which can potentially destroy us? So I have concluded one thing in life. Well, a few of them. One is, I don't want to die a coulda, woulda, shoulda life. I don't want to die like that. The worst thing is not failing. The worst thing is never trying. So I will try. And worst, I will fail, but God has been faithful in my life. He's going to pick me up again. So I've taken many risks in my life. I went to America at the age of 20, 1973. I was at a university. The first job they gave me, because I could not get a work permit in America. The major recession was going on at that time. So I went to immigration office and they turned me down 4 years in a row. They turned me down, but I needed to work. So my university gave me a job. They did not pay me, but it was a barter for like a work scholarship. So I was their janitor. That means I was cleaning toilets, I was sweeping sidewalks, I was mopping floors, breakfast cook, and dishwasher. That's what I did for 4 years. That was 1973 to 1977. What I did not know was that 12 years later, in 1989, God will bring me back to the same university, but this time I would not be a janitor. This time he brought me back as the chancellor of the same university. So many of my lessons come as an immigrant. Many of my lessons come as an immigrant when it seems like everybody else can get financial aid and you cannot get financial aid. Anybody else can get a job and you cannot get a job. Everybody else gets a chance to speak, but because you have an accent, you don't have a chance to speak. And many, many other things. But you have to make some choices. Lord, I see the flood, but you made me a promise. You didn't come here, you did not bring me here to fail. You brought me here to succeed. So I'm going to walk into that promise. But this is what I learned, that whatever you do, do it excellently. Because somebody is watching you. The millions of people who went past on dry land, went on dry land because they watched the priests with the Ark of the Covenant do it first. Somebody is what? Watching you. And you do it well, and the river starts parting. It does not part for mediocre people. It does not part for people who are saying, well, I'm going to test God. If it does not work out, I'll have plan B and C. When you have only plan A, then everything seems to work out for you. The second lesson is the only thing sure in life is God and His promises. The rest of it, you never know about. Okay, how many of you are married? Can I see your hands? Married, men and women, married. How many of you were sure? If you knew then what you know now, yeah. If Pastor knew then when God called him to now all the challenges that he has faced, we would let the flood scare us. And that is where God keeps us ignorant. That's why you got married, ignorance. 2 days later, you're saying, what have I done? Step into it.
Let's appreciate Dr. Chan for that. That's great wisdom speaking there. Great wisdom. Yeah. Dr. Chan, I wanted to speak to this congregation tonight. There are people here sitting down who are leading small businesses, some leading medium-sized businesses, some leading in the public sector. We have a house packed filled with leaders. What are the greatest mistakes, the most common mistakes that leaders make? Maybe 2 or 3 of them.
2 or 3 major mistakes that leaders make. The first one is forgetting where you came from. I have seen people that God elevated, accelerated, and pretty soon they forgot where they came from. Never forget where you came from. Just keep a humble spirit. You know, when someone says, I'm a self-made man or a self-made woman, you want to look at them and say, didn't make much of yourself, did you? Because none of us, I would not be here had it not been for Pastor Tola. I did not know Pastor Godman. I did not know Pastor Sam. I had no connections in Nigeria. God took him from Nigeria to US, brought me from India to US, connected a Nigerian to an Indian in US to bring us back to Nigeria to be here with you tonight. So I have to remind myself, I'm not here, I've been brought here. None of you have come here. Every one of us has been brought here. That's the first mistake that people make. They think they are all that. The second mistake that leaders make is they'll reach a certain level and get comfortable there. And they stop growing themselves. You will go only where your thoughts lead you. You stop growing up here, you are just walking dead. You got to feed your brain. In a minute, I'm going to talk about some of the books that we have over here. Not to sell the books, of course, hopefully you'll buy, but this is brain food. This is brain food. This is brain food. So what are you doing to keep preparing? I read at least 3 to 4 hours every day. I don't have 3 to 4 hours together. I'll read 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, half hour here, an hour there. But I'm always trying to feed my... So if you stop preparing, you can never get to... All opportunities come to those who are prepared. Something about opportunities. Opportunities are never postponed, they're always canceled. The opportunity of a lifetime has to be used in the lifetime of the opportunity. I'm going to say that again. The opportunity of a lifetime has to be utilized and used in the lifetime of the, because every opportunity has an expiration date on it. It will come and it will go. So number 2 is people stop preparing themselves. I'm going to give you a third one. Jesus said, without me, you can do nothing. You've got to believe that. You've got to believe that without him, you can do nothing. It's not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence comes my help comes from for my God shall supply according to. When you start thinking that you are all that, he will let you be all that. And any moment a Christian leader starts believing that you are there because you had the money, that you had the know-how, that you had the opportunity, that you had the connection, God tells us that pride goes before the Bible is full of stories like that. And as long as you are dependent on the Lord will take you there. And that is why even for the church, when he was talking to Peter, he said, who do men say that I am? And Peter said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. He says, on this rock I will build. Everyone say my. Not my church, not his church, not any human being's church. He said, on this rock I will build, and the gates of hell will not. If the gates of hell cannot prevail, it has to be his church. You have to be his person. You know you cannot take your next breath without him. You cannot stand up from your chair without him. You cannot walk out of here without him. Everything in him we have our being. We were formed, we were fearfully and wonderfully made. And I'm spending more time on that point because I have seen many good Christian leaders start believing that it is because of their gifts. And I want you to know, the Lord giveth.
Come on, let's appreciate Dr. Chan. Okay. Dr. Chan, someone is asking a question. I'm a leader. I failed my team. I failed the people working with me. How do I repair the damage and regain their trust? How do you regain trust?
It takes lifetime to build trust. It takes 30 seconds to destroy trust. There's only one way to regain trust with people. Only one way. Not 2 ways, only one way. And that is to apologize. If you broke the trust publicly, apologize publicly. If you broke somebody's trust privately, apologize to that person privately. Let's talk about apology for a second. If you're going to apologize, apologize. Has anyone ever said to you, if I have offended you? Has anyone ever said to you, I apologize for the way I said it, but I still believe what I said? Do you know what and I can give you more examples, but this is what I call a non-apology apology. In fact, when you apologize like that, you take a bad situation and make it worse. I have messed up enough times to tell you this lesson came to me the hard way. Just when you have done something that has hurt your trust, just simply come out and say, I am wrong. Not, I was just having a bad day and the devil. No, it's not the devil, it's you. Only way to regain trust is to apologize. Now, The challenge is we think because we have done our part that they ought to give us their trust immediately. Oh no. You're going to be on probation for a long time. In fact, there's a certain thing known as trust tax. You will pay tax on the trust that you have broken. You will pay trust on somebody else, tax on somebody else's trust. Give an example. Use my phone. So let's just say I was unfaithful to my wife. And instead of death, I got divorced. Because my wife says, you don't have to worry about divorce. I'll kill you. So let's just say I'm unfaithful to my wife and I've destroyed trust. She cuts me loose from my life. And then pretty soon, well, a few years later, she marries somebody else. Let's call that person Paul, just for. She's married to Paul now. Paul is supposed to be home at 7 o'clock, but he's stuck in traffic. Paul knows what she's thinking. Where is he? So he calls her on FaceTime. Says, see, baby, there's traffic everywhere. See, baby, in the back seat? No one there. Look at me, it's just me from every angle. Now, Sam was the one who betrayed the trust. But who's paying the tax on it? Thank you. And the worst part about betraying trust is that other people lose trust. So you don't sin to yourself. You always take other people down with you. How to regain trust? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It's all my fault. I hope you'll find it in your heart to down the road give me your trust again. But till then, I'll do my very best to earn it from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. I just want to bring this into it so that the kind of understanding I'm getting, I hope, is the same kind of understanding we're getting. Generally, in the Christian community, when you offend someone, you may have broken the person's trust. Christians believe that because Jesus said 70 times 7. Peter said, how many times will my brother offend me? He says 70 times or 70 times 7. Yeah, that the moment I apologize, you forgive me and restore my trust status.
Reinstate me.
Yeah, reinstate me. So forgive me and reinstate me.
That doesn't happen.
Okay, I wanted to speak to that.
No, that does not happen. There's no such thing as instantaneous reinstatement. You have to pay your dues, and you have to be wise. If you were my CFO, let's talk the easy example, huh? You're my CFO, and you did something wrong with my money, and you broke your trust, and you come and apologize. I accept your apology, but you're not going to touch my money anymore. Are you with me on that? So I apologize, give my job back to me. Oh, no. No. Because I don't want to stay up at night wondering if you are cheating me again. I'm not going to do that. And you have to be wise. You can forgive everybody, but not everybody can be reinstated into that, especially when you're in leadership. There are penalties that come. The higher you go, the greater the penalties come with that. So when David broke God's trust, by not just adultery, but adultery plus murder. Bathsheba and Uriah, her husband. God was going to trust him to build the temple, but then God said, no. You cannot build the temple. You got blood on your hands. So please understand that there's a difference between forgiving somebody and totally reinstating that person. And that is where wisdom comes in. And one of the things is, if you have a demanding spirit with your apology, it's not an apology. If your apology says, I am saying I'm sorry, now you need to do this for me. If you have a demanding, requiring spirit with your apology, it is not an apology. Because there's no humility there. Humility says, thank you for even talking to me. And I'm sorry. And then whatever happens after that is in the hands of the person. Thank you.
Let's appreciate Dr. Chan. All right. Perhaps we can take maybe just two more. All right. I'm in a position of leadership, but I do not have the qualities of a good leader. So this is somebody who is saying, I know myself. Maybe I'm being promoted into leadership now, but I know I don't have the qualities of a good leader. I need a crash course on leadership, or I will lose my position. What are the top 3 things I should focus on?
I'm still stuck on the crash course. Crash course in leadership. That's an interesting question there. Crash course in leadership. There is no crash course in leadership. However, one of the best things a person does is know their limitations. One of the best things a person does is to know that if I keep going down this road, I don't have the equipment to do the job. This is a huge building. It took some heavy equipment to build this building, right? If I have never driven the equipment, do you want to trust somebody with a crash course? Do you want your airplane pilot to have a crash course? Yeah, it'll be crash on the course. I think the best thing a human being does says, that is not my thing. So if you're in a position and you're afraid you're going to lose your position, I'm telling you, you've already lost your position. I'm telling you, everybody already knows you're not a leader. I'm telling you, you cannot come back with a certificate after 5 days saying, I have a crash course in leadership. I'm a leader now. I'm a leader. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to know your limitations, look for other opportunities to serve, where you will flourish and not be under perpetual pressure. Let me use church examples. I've seen people try to sing who could not sing. Don't sing. I've seen preachers try to preach who couldn't preach. Don't preach. I've seen people try to do things that they were not anointed for. So walk in your anointing, walk in your gifts. If you can't do certain things, don't look for a crash course. Find the place where you will shine, you will not be under pressure, and that you can perform optimally rather than minimally.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, this last one. This very last one. But I feel like making it 2, but I'll try. Okay. The popular belief is to do it afraid. So I actually did it and failed. Supposed to be do it afraid, but I did it and failed. What do I do next after failure?
Well, first of all, failure is the best teacher in life. you will learn more from your failures than your successes. Failure is never fatal. Failure is never final. Failure is written in pencil. It can be erased. Failure is the womb out of which success is born. Failure is to be valued. There's value to failure. So just because you failed does not mean that it's the ultimate failure. I want to say to you, in my life, I get to be on these platforms and speak different places in the world, and people think differently of me. I can tell you from my life, I have failed more often than succeeded. But I never allow failure to stop teaching me. I learn from every failure. I want to talk to every one of us. Not all of us might have succeeded, but all of us have failed. We all have that in common. Every successful person, you look behind them, there's a string of failures behind them. We all fail. So I want you to take courage in the fact that He has allowed you to remain alive long enough to fail again. To fail again. But as long as you fail forward, you're going to keep gaining in your failure. Last thing I want to say about failure. You fail at things, but you are not a failure. I want to say it again. You fail at things, but you are not a failure. You may have failed on your job, but you're not a failure. You may fail in school. Let me tell you about my life. Now, I told you earlier, I ended up being chancellor for university, right? So let me tell you my failure story. In my 10th grade, when I was growing up in India, in my 10th grade, a Catholic academy known as St. Francis High School, 10th grade, I failed the entire 10th grade. I mean, there were 12 subjects. Anyone can fail 2 or 3 subjects. But if you're going to fail, fail with excellence. I failed my entire 10th grade. Now, the reason I failed, I got to tell you why I failed, is that every morning me and my friends would leave our house as if we were going to school. But there were so many other important things that we needed to pay attention to. So we never made it to school. So I had to leave that school, enroll in another school. Now, if you had walked up to me when I failed my 10th grade and I'm repeating my 10th grade, all my friends have gone on, I'm repeating my 10th grade. If you had walked up to me and said, Sam, one day you're going to be a chancellor of a university, I'd ask them, what are you smoking? But I am a sum product of many thousands, literally, of failures in my life. And failure is the best teacher you have had. Don't run from your failure. Don't deny your failure. Step back. Ask yourself tough questions. What will I do next? Why did this happen again? Why do I keep failing here again and again? What lessons should I learn from this? So, last thing I want to say to you. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Just keep making new mistakes. Because new mistakes gave you opportunity to keep moving into your future.
Let's appreciate Dr. Tan. All right, so this very last question. Yeah.
See, he keeps asking me questions, knowing I have been failing at every question, but he's been giving me good trust to regain it again and again. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
This is your party, this is your house.
Yeah.
He told me he's going to pay me by the question. Please ask some more questions. Listen, I am an Indian. This is what we do. Okay, no, go ahead. Sorry.
All right, this very last question, and we'll put it all together. Dr. Chan, you early in life had an opportunity to move to the US from India. So you experienced what it looks like to be in a strange environment. You experienced change very early in life. And I know you have experienced changes, you know. How can one cope? So how does one thrive in a different environment, in an uncomfortable environment, you know, in a hostile environment, so to speak? Or how do you cope in the midst of change?
I love this man. I love this man. So I was 20. I went to this university, Beulah Heights University. You can check it out, beulah.edu in Atlanta. It's been there since 1918. I went from India. The first time I was on a plane in my life was going to Atlanta. My world went from India to white America overnight. From 1973 to 1989, my life was 100% white. My wife is white. The church I pastored is white. My university is white. My teachers were white. The church I went to was white. All of a sudden, everything changed overnight. When I woke up the first morning in America, it was white. No curry. I lived on ketchup and Tabasco sauce. On top of that, I landed in New York City before I caught a flight to Atlanta with 87 cents in my pocket. Why 87 cents? In those days, from India, you could only carry $7 with you. The federal bank would give you $7. I had $7. Stupid me. I spent all my $6.13 in Paris buying postcards to send back home, trying to impress people who didn't like me. I remember 87 cents because when I landed in JFK Airport in New York, I had my suitcases with me, and when I got on the bus, the shuttle bus from International Terminal to, there used to be an airline called Eastern Airline. Pastor Tole, remember that? Eastern Airline. I had to go there. I got on the shuttle bus, and the bus driver in New York said to me, "That'll be $1, sir." I went in my pocket, came up for 87 cents. He told me to get off his bus. Welcome to America, but walk, Indian, walk. So I had no money. I applied for work permit, got denied. I already told you 4 times. But this is what I learned. What I learned was in a hostile environment. Can I just say something in brackets? America is not the land of milk and honey. Because the same cow that gives you milk also lifts up its tail and gives you the other stuff. It is not what, it's okay to visit. It's one thing to visit a place, it's another thing to live in that place. And during my hostile times, I knew to do only one thing, that whatever I was asked to do, I did it without complaint, and I did it to the best of my ability. So as a breakfast cook every morning, I would get up at 4 o'clock, go down to the kitchen. All the Americans would still be asleep. I would make eggs and bacon and ham and bread and juice. At 7 o'clock, I'd have it ready for the Americans to come, and I'd serve them. Then they would go to classes. I would wait for about half hour, wash all the dishes, then join them in classes. From 12:30 to 1 o'clock was lunch. At 1 o'clock, I changed uniform and start sweeping, painting, cutting the grass, plunging toilets, doing whatever I was asked to do. But as I reflect back on it, I just did what they asked me to do with two things in mind. I did it without complaining, and I did it with excellence. Those are the best eggs they ever had. That was the best orange juice I ever made for them. There was no microwaves in that way. My parents would ask me by letter. In those days, you could not call. It would be $5 a minute if you got a connection in India. So I did not talk to my parents for 4 years. But I used to write them a letter every Monday. They would write me a letter every Monday. So all our letters would cross. My parents asked me, how are you doing? I'm doing wonderful. Do you have a job? Yes, I have a part-time job. But if my parents, now you got to understand the Indian mentality. If my parents knew that I was cleaning toilets, they would say what to me? Come back home. I never told my parents I was cleaning toilets. Because I know that the Bible means what it says. It says, whatsoever your hands find to do, do it unto the Lord. In a hostile environment, whatever you do it unto the Lord, because all promotion comes from the Lord. It's not about the hostile environment. It is how you conduct yourself in that hostile environment. No complaining, do it with excellence, and then God will take care of the rest. Thank you.
Can we appreciate Dr. Chan some more tonight? All right. I don't want us to rush out at all. We're shutting down the service in a few minutes, so if you can just give us a few minutes. I want Dr. Chan to say something about his materials. Then I'm going to invite one of our ministers to take an announcement and shut down the service. I want you to know that tomorrow, in the first segment, I'm going to be bringing a word, a message that I titled Strip, Driving Light into Your Destiny. I trust that will, bring a word of revelation into your life. And in the second segment tomorrow, my friend from Global Impact Church, Pastor Yemi Davids, will be speaking on Destiny Catalyst. I don't want you to miss it for anything. Let's hear Dr. Chan talk about the materials that he has out there.
Thank you. I will do this in 120 seconds. Pastor Tola has written 2 books. I have both of them here. This is called I'm Better Than This. Everyone say I'm better than this. That's what you do in a hostile environment. You remind yourself, I'm better than this. Then Pastor Tola wrote a sequel to that. It's called Line Crossers. How many of you know it's one thing to start a race, it's another thing to finish the race? God did not just ask us to start, He asked us to start, keep on running till you cross the line. These books are available by Pastor Tola Jutola, Senior Pastor of Jesus House, Baltimore. Earlier on, Pastor Godman talked about this book that he just read recently called Futuring. This is the book that introduced me to Nigeria. Pastor Tola somehow got a hold of this book years ago. He was so energized by this book that he bought everything there was online everywhere. And he gave them away to all of his friends. Because of Pastor Tola and this book, I got invited to speak at different conferences, and I'm here because of this book, simply called Futuring. Futuring. How many of you know you're going to live in the future? Not in the past. This book is written for people going through transitions. You are here, but God wants you to go there. You have a job, God wants you to start a business. You are in university, but God wants you to go into employment. Whatever you are in transition, this name of the book is Who Moved Your Ladder? And in this book, I help you understand the value of transitions, how to behave yourself in the transition, how to have a business plan, how to plan and have a seamless transition in your life. This is the book that Pastor Godman read during the building program. It's called Leadership Pain. Leadership Pain. The only thing holding you back, the ceiling to your success, is how much pain you can handle. What you do with the hostilities life brings to you. Because if you're leading, you are bleeding. You will grow only to the threshold of your pain. The more pain you can handle, the higher you can go. So, these books will be available. If you are a leader here, you're a business person, you're an executive, there are people who work for you, help them accelerate your life, their life. So instead of just buying for yourself, be sure to buy one for your co-workers, people who you want to sow into, because you go where you are sown. Pastor Tola and I will meet you there to sign your books for you. If you don't want us to sign your books, sign them yourself. Nobody knows the difference. It has been a wonderful opportunity to serve you tonight. Thank you so very much. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to receive Pastor T to come. I think we should allow Dr. Chan to go straight to the table. Lulu, can you help with the materials? It's been wonderful, wonderful spending this time with you tonight. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. We'll take some announcement from Pastor Tunde Osidame, our resident pastor at the Island Church here, and then we'll bring this